Hello my friends, David Kessler here and welcome back to the studio. This is going to be part one of a multi-part series that shows my abstract painting process. Now a lot of people want to know, how do you go about making decisions when you paint or in the process? How do you make decisions? What do you do? Where do you start? How do you start? How do you end? And that's what this series is all about, just showing you how I go about it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it this way, but it's really just to answer questions that students have and other people have about what it is that I do and how I go about doing it. That's all it is. It's for information. It's for education. It's to help you if you need a place to start or you need a way to begin. Maybe this is for you. Maybe it's not for you. This is how I do it. There's thousands, tens of thousands of other ways to do it. This just happens to be the way I do it. So I'm going to just lead you through the process of how I go about making an abstract painting. And during the painting segments, you're going to see the whole thing really is going to be unedited. Now there may be times when I step back from the painting, to take a look. I'll edit that time out so that you're not just staring at a screen with nothing happening. But I'll try to narrate as I go through the painting process what it is that I'm doing, maybe what I'm thinking about, how I'm developing the shapes and the colors and all that. So we're going to start this process by thinking about the pre-planning of the color combination and what I plan to do, which really forms the intentions for the painting. For this process, we're going to be looking at a tetradic color combination. I know. Tetrad, it sounds like some kind of a dinosaur, right? But it's a tetradic. And what that means simply is two sets of complementary colors. Two sets of complementary colors. Now I'm going to be using my simple color system color wheel, right? And if you're interested in getting one of these, I'll put a link, below in the description for these so that you can have one if you want to. Now essentially, if you're looking at a 12 color wheel, this is a standard 12 color wheel, right? No matter what kind of color wheel that you have, a tetrad will be shown on the wheel as either a rectangle or a square. In this case, mine is a rectangle. So we're going to be using violet and yellow and blue and orange, right? Violet and yellow and blue and orange. Those are the four colors, the two sets of complementary colors that we're going to be using. So the first thing that I think about when I'm dealing with complementary colors is, I've got one cool color and one warm color because they're on opposite sides of the color wheel. So with this one, I have two cool colors and two warm colors, right? Because we're using two sets of complementary colors. So my initial decision is the painting going to be predominantly cool, or is it going to be predominantly warm? Because it needs to be one of those two things. One of the biggest sort of rules, if you want to call it, of complementary colors is always use more of one and less of the other. So I typically would use one as a dominant color and one as an accent color. The accent color then would form the center of interest areas because it's going to pop, right? You have color contrast built into complementary colors, so the color's going to pop. So in the case of this painting, I'm going to make it predominantly cool and use the warm colors as the accent colors. Or accent would be to form the centers of interest. So what I'm going to do here, I have a process where I use a dominant color, a non-dominant color, and an accent color. If I'm using three colors or more. So my dominant color for the painting is going to be violet. And my non-dominant color is going to be blue. So this is surface area. The violet will take up a little bit more surface area than the blue. And then the two accent colors are going to be yellow and orange. And I'm going to use those sparingly and mostly to make the center of interest areas pop out against predominantly cool paint. Okay? Now this is not, radical or, controversial. It's standard stuff, right? It's pretty standard stuff when you're dealing with colors, and particularly complementary colors. And I've talked about this, I don't know how many times before, a lot of times, But if you're new to this or you're new to the channel, typically when you're using complementary colors, if you use them equally in a painting, it's the same as mixing them equally on the palette, right? They're going to make a kind of a neutral gray. If you use them equally 50-50 in a painting, your eye is going to mix in that gray. And you're not going to be dominantly, cool or warm, and it's not going to be a clear statement for the painting. It's always more clear if you use more of one and less of the other, so that one dominates the other one, rather than trying to use them in equal measure. So if you have more of one and less of the other, and I always, kind of think about it as 80-20. I mean, there's the 80-20 rule, works for so many other things in life. It's just easy to remember 80-20, 80% of one color, 20% of the other. That doesn't mean you actually use 80 or 20, but it's to remind you always more of one and less of another. And if you can understand complementary colors, they've really formed the basis of all color making decisions as you make art. I mean, they're just so basic, but you need to understand how they work. When you're mixing them on the palette, mixing them equally makes a gray. If you add one to the other, it begins to neutralize the intensity of the color and move it more toward gray. All those sorts of things. And if you don't know any of that, then I have plenty of other videos that deal with complementary colors and how to mix them and how to use them. And I have a great online course called All About Color, which also has a link below in the description if you're interested in learning more about how to use colors and make them harmonious in your painting. Okay, so this is a color combination we're using. Again, we're using a tetrad of blue and orange and violet and yellow. And my intent is to make a predominantly cool painting, mostly violet with blue as a non-dominant color and the yellow and the orange as accent colors. In the next video, we're going to go to the palette and I'm going to show you all the colors I'm going to be using. We're going to do some mixing and all that kind of stuff. So I hope this was helpful for you, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.